My friend, today I want to sit down with you not as a lecturer, but as an old friend, as a physician who has spent more than 30 years caring for older patients here in the United States. And I want to talk with you about something small, something that seems so simple, but can completely change the way we benefit from one of nature's most powerful medicines, garlic. You see, many people think, oh, garlic, just chop it up, throw it in the pan, and you're done. What's the big deal? But the truth is, it's not that simple. Over the years, I've met countless patients who believed they were doing the right thing, that eating garlic would protect their heart, lower their blood pressure, or even help prevent cancer. Yet, when we looked closer, I found that the way they prepared it had stripped away most of its healing power. And it all comes down to one small detail that almost everyone overlooks: letting garlic rest after chopping or crushing it. Let me explain. Inside each clove of garlic are enzymes that remain inactive until you chop, crush, or mince it. Only then do these enzymes react to create allicin, the miracle compound responsible for most of garlic's healing effects. Allicin can help lower blood pressure, protect the heart, fight inflammation, combat bacteria, and even slow the growth of certain cancer cells. But here's the catch: if you chop garlic and immediately throw it into a hot pan of oil or boiling soup, those enzymes don't get a chance to do their work. The allicin never forms, and all you're left with is the smell without the medicine. I'll never forget one of my patients, Linda, 62 years old. She believed in garlic with all her heart. She ate it every single day. But her blood pressure stayed high, and her cholesterol wouldn't budge. When I asked her how she prepared it, she said, I always thought it first thing in hot oil. I loved the aroma, it must be the healing power. But in truth, that aroma meant the allicin had already been destroyed by heat. I suggested something simple: chop the garlic, let it sit on the cutting board for about 10 minutes, then add it to her food. Just a few months later, her lab results told a very different story. Her blood pressure had dropped, her good cholesterol had gone up, and she felt lighter and more energized. You might be thinking, really? Just waiting 10 minutes? Yes, really. Think of it like this. Imagine you had a bottle of medicine. If you swallowed it before the pill dissolved, you'd get no benefit. Garlic is the same. Letting it rest is like letting the medicine dissolve, giving those enzymes enough time to unlock the allicin. A small act of patience with a powerful reward. And isn't that true in life as well? How many times do we rush through things and miss the real value? Not just in the kitchen, but in how we eat, how we exercise, how we love, and even how we care for ourselves. Health doesn't come from rushing. It comes from small, thoughtful, consistent choices, just like giving garlic those few extra minutes. Science backs this up. Studies show that simply letting garlic sit for 5 to 10 minutes after chopping multiplies the allicin content dramatically compared to cooking it right away. And the best part, you don't have to overhaul your entire diet. You just need a little patience. And that patience could mean a stronger heart, better circulation, and a more resilient immune system. I remember a 70-year-old gentleman telling me in my clinic one day, "Doctor, I don't mind living longer, I just don't want to live longer in pain." And he was absolutely right. Longevity only matters when it's paired with vitality, when our bodies and minds remain in harmony. And sometimes, the smallest habits, like how we prepare garlic, become the very bricks that build that foundation of lasting health. So let me ask you, my dear friends listening today, have you ever thought that patience in the kitchen could be the key to a longer, healthier life? The next time you chop garlic, leave it on the board for a few minutes. In that time, take a deep breath, look out the window, or simply smile at yourself. Because in that quiet pause, a little miracle is happening, one that may give you more strength for the years ahead. And if you're caring for a spouse, or for your aging parents, share this with them. Just one small tip, but it can bring so much peace of mind. Often, it's the simplest things that save us from the heaviest burdens. When we are young, we take health for granted. But after 50 or 60, we realize every healthy day is a gift. And protecting that gift doesn't always mean doing something dramatic. Sometimes, it's as simple as letting garlic rest for 10 minutes after chopping. That's it. Health doesn't come from complexity, it comes from attentiveness, from the wisdom to appreciate life's smallest details. And today, all I want is to leave you with this gentle reminder: be patient and cherish every moment. Even in something as ordinary as waiting for garlic to wake up, there is hidden power to keep you strong and well. You know, earlier we talked about letting garlic rest before cooking, a small detail with big impact. Now, let me share another common mistake I've seen many patients make: eating garlic on an empty stomach. You may have heard the claim that chewing raw garlic first thing in the morning cleanses the body, kills bacteria, or purifies the blood. Many older adults treat this like a daily ritual. One of my patients, Richard, 67, told me, "Doctor, I chew a raw clove of garlic every morning. I heard it's good for the heart." But instead of feeling stronger, he suffered from frequent heartburn, indigestion, and once even had to be hospitalized for mild stomach bleeding. Have you ever felt that burning, empty ache of hunger? Now imagine dropping a raw, fiery clove of garlic into that unprotected stomach lining. Garlic, as powerful as it is also a natural antibiotic that can be harsh. On an empty stomach, it can inflame or even erode the stomach lining, especially in people over 50, whose digestive systems are often more sensitive. The very thing you thought was healing you can turn into a double-edged sword. Science confirms this too. Allicin has wonderful benefits, but when it comes in direct contact with an empty stomach, it can become an irritant instead. And for older adults, the risks are even greater. I remember one of my patients, Margaret. She once told me, "Doctor, I eat raw garlic first thing in the morning, but I always feel burning, uncomfortable, almost sick to my stomach. Still, I forced myself to keep going because I thought it was good for me." When she said that, I simply held her hand and told her, health doesn't come from blind suffering. It comes from understanding. Then I guided her with something simple: eat garlic with food, or add it into a salad, a stew, or if convenience is important, try lightly cooked garlic or aged garlic extract. And thankfully, within just a few weeks, her stomach pain completely disappeared while she still kept the healing benefits of garlic. Now I want you to pause and think about yourself. Have you ever done something you believed was healthy, but your body clearly disagreed? The truth is, as we grow older, our bodies aren't the same as they were 20 or 30 years ago. Every action, every habit, requires a bit more wisdom, a bit more care. And often, the gentler path, the one with less suffering, is actually the path toward greater health. Garlic is not the enemy. Quite the opposite, it's a powerful ally. But like any good friend, it requires the right relationship. Don't force your empty stomach to endure its raw strength. Instead, let garlic walk alongside a piece of bread, a bowl of oatmeal, or even a small meal. In that way, its healing power arrives gently, naturally, and sustainably. Real health doesn't come from extremes. It comes from harmony. And life in our 50s, 60s, or 70s is exactly the same. It doesn't require rushing or self-punishment. What it requires is understanding and a touch of wisdom. So next time you hold a clove of garlic in your hand in the morning, remember this: don't make your empty stomach face it alone. Let garlic be your companion, not your troublemaker. My dear friend, we've already talked about letting garlic rest after chopping, and about the mistake of eating it on an empty stomach. Now, I want to share with you another common habit, one I've seen in almost every kitchen across America: adding garlic too early, cooking it over high heat until it burns. I've seen it countless times. Someone heats a pan of oil, chops a few cloves of garlic, tosses them in, and hears that irresistible sizzle. The aroma fills the kitchen, and we think, this is going to be delicious and healthy. But as a doctor who has followed hundreds of older patients, I have to be honest with you. That very moment when the garlic smokes and turns brown, most of its healing compounds have already been destroyed. Remember allicin, the remarkable compound I mentioned earlier, the one that protects the heart, reduces inflammation, fights bacteria, even slows cancer growth. Here's what most people don't know: allicin is fragile. It forms when garlic is chopped, but it's easily destroyed at high heat. When you fry garlic in sizzling oil, within seconds, the allicin evaporates. You keep the aroma, but you lose the medicine. I want you to picture this. Imagine picking a beautiful flower. Instead of letting it bloom in the morning sun, you put it directly under a flame. The petals burn, the fragrance disappears, and all that's left is ash. Garlic is just like that. Many of my patients have said to me, "I eat garlic every day, but my blood pressure hasn't changed." And when I ask how they cook it, most admit they fry it at the very beginning for flavor. And that, right there, is the problem. One of my longtime patients, James, age 71, had coronary artery disease. He truly believed in the power of food, and he loved making homemade Italian pasta. He always used lots of garlic, sizzling it in olive oil until golden before mixing it with noodles. But his health didn't improve. When I explained that he had unknowingly killed the allicin with heat, he looked thoughtful and said, "I've cooked this way my whole life. I never even considered that." I showed him another way: chop the garlic, let it rest, and then add it at the very end of cooking, when the heat is gentler. Within months, his lab results began to shift for the better. You see, sometimes the difference between tasty and healthy is just a matter of seconds on the flame. And here's the truth. Garlic doesn't need to be sacrificed in hot oil to give you its benefits. You can add it to soups after the heat is off, sprinkle it onto salads, or simply pair it with a piece of toasted bread. I know for many of us, the smell of garlic sizzling in oil brings back family memories, the warmth of home. Evenings when our mothers or wives were cooking, that smell carries nostalgia. But if your goal is health, you have to make a choice. The aroma doesn't heal, but Allison does. At 50, 60, or 70 years old, we don't just cook for flavor anymore. We cook to keep our hearts beating steadily, our minds clear, and our bodies full of life each morning. And to do that, sometimes we have to change habits that have been with us for decades. So here's what I want you to remember. Next time you hold a clove of garlic, give it time to form, Allison. And when you add it to your dish, do it in the gentlest moment of the flame, not when the fire is roaring. In that patience and subtlety, you'll find a great difference in your health. My dear friend, we've just walked through the story of cooking garlic too soon and losing its essence. Now, I want to talk about another mistake, one that may be even more common in today's modern kitchens, where convenience often takes priority: using pre-peeled garlic that's been sitting around too long. You've probably seen those jars at the supermarket, garlic cloves already peeled, sometimes even packed in oil. They look so convenient, don't they? Just pop the lid, grab a few cloves, and you're ready. No mess, no peeling. At first glance, it seems perfect, especially for hands that aren't as nimble as they once were. But let me tell you, after decades of working with older patients, I must be honest, that convenience can be a trap. One of my patients, Helen, age 65, told me, "Doctor, I love buying pre-peeled garlic because with my arthritis, peeling each clove is just too painful. But why is it that I eat it regularly and don't feel any benefits?" When I asked to see what she was using, she pulled out a jar from her fridge, garlic soaking in oil, the cloves slightly yellowed. Just by looking at it, I knew most of the nutrients were gone, and worse, it even posed a risk of bacterial contamination. You see, garlic in its natural form is alive. A whole bulb protects itself with its papery skin and antioxidants inside. But once peeled, each clove becomes vulnerable, easily attacked by mold and bacteria. Whether stored in oil or in plastic bags, those cloves gradually lose their flavor and their nutrients. And here's the real danger: certain harmful bacteria, like Clostridium botulinum, can grow in oil-packed garlic, causing serious food poisoning. Have you ever caught yourself choosing what's easy instead of what's right? In today's modern life, that's not unusual. But when it comes to health, especially in our 50s and 60s, choosing the easy path can sometimes come with a heavy price. That's why I often tell my patients, buy whole garlic bulbs firm, with dry papery skin. Store them in a cool, dry place, and only peel them right before you're ready to use them. Yes, it may take an extra minute or two, but that small moment of effort pays off with peace of mind. It's a bit like planting a seed. You don't get a flower instantly, but the waiting brings true value. I remember the last time I spoke with my patient Helen. I peeled a garlic bulb right there in front of her and said, "Think of peeling garlic as a little ritual. As your hands remove each layer of skin, imagine you're also peeling back a layer of protection for your own health." She laughed and told me afterward, "I never thought peeling garlic could feel so meaningful." You see, sometimes health isn't about something far away or complicated. It's right there, in the patience we give to simple things. If you store garlic the right way, it gives back its best to you. But if you cut corners, the benefits get cut short too. So next time you're tempted to grab a jar of pre-peeled garlic at the supermarket, pause for a moment and ask yourself, do I want short-term convenience or long-term health? I believe your answer will guide you back to those whole, sturdy bulbs, just as you deserve a life that is whole, sturdy, and healthy. My friend, in our last talk we spoke about pre-peeled garlic, the kind of convenience that takes away more than it gives. Today, I want to share another habit I see in so many American homes: storing garlic in the refrigerator. It sounds reasonable, doesn't it? We've all been taught the fridge keeps food fresh: meat, fish, vegetables. But with garlic, it's a different story. When you put garlic into that cold, damp environment, you're actually waking it up. And once awake, it begins to sprout. Have you ever opened your fridge and found a clove of garlic with a little green shoot? It looks almost cute, like new life. But to me, as a doctor who has worked with older adults for decades, that's a warning sign. Because when garlic sprouts, much of its precious nutrition is already being drained away. That green shoot is stealing energy from the clove, leaving behind less of the healing power your body needs. One of my patients, Daniel, 68, used to say, "Doctor, I always buy a big bag of garlic and stick it in the fridge so it won't spoil." But when I asked him, he admitted that after a while, the cloves all sprouted, sometimes even turned soft. He thought it was harmless, but his blood tests told a different story. His cholesterol and triglycerides didn't improve, even though he ate garlic daily. Once I showed him a simple change: keep garlic in a cool, dry place, like a mesh bag hanging in the kitchen. He was surprised. Not only did the garlic last longer than he expected, but it kept its full strength. Do you see the lesson? Sometimes what we think is protecting something is actually harming it. It's like holding on too tightly to a friend. You smother them instead of letting them breathe. Garlic is the same. It doesn't need a cold, closed box to survive. What it needs is air, dryness, and darkness. Then it stays strong until you need it. Think back for a moment. In your parents' or grandparents' kitchens, where was the garlic kept? Not in the refrigerator. It was hanging on a rack or sitting in a basket with air flowing around it. And somehow, those cloves stayed fresh, full of flavor, ready to release their fragrance into every meal. Without realizing it, the older generations had discovered the right way. With modern convenience, we've simply forgotten. So next time you bring home garlic, don't rush it into the fridge. Give it a corner of your kitchen where it can breathe with you. Because the way you treat your garlic reflects the way you treat your health, with patience, with respect, with understanding. I once told this to another patient, Susan, age 72. She laughed and said, "So it's not just people, even garlic needs its own space to live." And she was right. Because in the end, health is exactly like garlic. It thrives when given the right conditions, and it lasts when treated with care. And, my friend, there's one more habit I want to share, something many people still believe is harmless, but it silently robs garlic of its benefits: swallowing whole cloves without crushing or chewing them. I know a lot of folks think that swallowing garlic whole keeps its essence intact, like a pill. It sounds logical, but science says otherwise. Inside garlic is a powerful compound called allicin. That's the golden ingredient that fights bacteria, reduces inflammation, and protects your heart. But here's the key: allicin isn't present in a whole clove. It's only formed when garlic is crushed, chopped, or chewed. When two natural chemicals inside the clove mix and react. If you swallow it whole, that reaction never happens. Your body misses out on most of the benefit. I'll never forget one of my patients, Linda, 65. She proudly told me, "Doctor, I swallow 2 whole cloves of garlic every day, but my blood pressure is still high." When I asked how she ate it, she said she just peeled and gulped them down like tablets. I explained, it's like planting a seed but never tilling the soil. Nothing can grow because the conditions aren't right. Once she started chopping the garlic, letting it rest a few minutes, and then eating it, her health improved within months. Do you see? Sometimes the smallest detail makes the biggest difference. It's the same with life. You don't always need a radical change. Often, just one small correction opens the door to transformation. So if you truly care about your health, don't just swallow garlic like a pill. Give it a chance to breathe by chopping, crushing, or simply chewing it well. Because it's in that very moment that garlic releases its most powerful essence and shares it with you. You know, there's another mistake I often see in patients: eating too much garlic at once. Many people think, if garlic is good, then the more I eat, the healthier I'll be. But life and medicine rarely works that way. I remember a patient, a 72-year-old gentleman, who believed deeply in the healing power of garlic. Some days, he ate half a bulb of raw garlic in one sitting. The result? He came to me with stomach pain, terrible breath, and even signs of stomach lining irritation. He said, "Doctor, I only wanted to help my heart, not end up suffering like this." I told him, even the strongest natural remedy needs moderation. Garlic is not a magic potion, it's just one part of the bigger picture of health. Science confirms this clearly. Garlic has powerful antibacterial and anti-inflammatory properties, but in large amounts, it can irritate the stomach and intestines. In fact, some studies show that too much garlic may have the opposite effect. It can increase inflammation instead of reducing it. And for older adults taking blood thinners, overdoing garlic can raise the risk of dangerous bleeding. I often ask my patients to picture it this way: health is like a piece of music. Every food, every habit, is a note. If you play even the sweetest note too loudly, the whole song becomes unpleasant. Garlic is the same. It works best when it blends harmoniously with the rhythm of your body. So what's the right amount? Most experts recommend just 1 to 2 cloves per day for adults. More than that won't bring extra benefits, it just burdens your body. One of my patients, Anne, 68, loved adding lots of raw garlic to her salads. But after a while, she suffered from heartburn and restless nights. When she cut back to just 1 clove a day, her body felt so much better. She laughed and told me, "I guess happiness comes from having less, not more." Maybe you've thought the same, that a little extra can only help. But in truth, sometimes it's restraint that becomes the strongest medicine. My friend, there's another mistake I often notice in many households: cooking garlic at very high heat. Garlic is delicate. The moment you saute or fry it over high flames, valuable compounds like allicin are destroyed almost instantly. I've seen it countless times, especially in American kitchens when making stir-fries or grilled meats. Garlic goes straight into sizzling oil, turns brown in seconds, and with that golden aroma, most of its healing power disappears into thin air. One of my patients, Richard, 63, told me, "Doctor, I eat garlic every day, but all I get is bitterness and bloating." When I asked how he prepared it, he admitted he always fried it in hot oil until golden. I smiled and said, "At that point, you're using garlic as just a flavor, not as a medicine." Once he began chopping garlic, letting it rest for 10 minutes, and then adding it at the end of cooking, he noticed a real change: easier digestion, less bloating, and even his blood pressure started to stabilize. The science explains it clearly. Allicin, the main healing compound in garlic, is extremely sensitive to heat. When garlic burns, not only does it lose its benefits, but it can also produce compounds that irritate the stomach. That's why many people think garlic doesn't agree with me, when in reality, it's simply being cooked the wrong way. Think of garlic like an honored guest. If you rush it, expose it to too much heat, the guest leaves. But if you treat it with patience, gentle heat, proper timing, it stays and shares its gifts. So what's the right way? Very simple. After chopping or crushing garlic, let it sit a few minutes to activate those enzymes. Then, add it toward the end of cooking, whether in soups, stir-fries, or right before turning off the heat. If you're grilling, brush garlic oil on after the meat is done, instead of cooking it together from the start. That way, you preserve much more of garlic's healing power. I'll never forget when one of my patients, Susan, 70, called to thank me for this small piece of advice. "Doctor, I stopped browning garlic until it's burnt. Now my food tastes better, my stomach feels lighter, and I feel healthier overall." She was so happy. And for me, that smile was the greatest reward. You see, sometimes good health doesn't come from big, dramatic changes, but from the smallest details. Even something as simple as how you cook a clove of garlic. And, my friend, there's yet another habit I must warn you about, something especially common among older adults trying to cleanse their bodies: eating garlic on an empty stomach. At first, it sounds reasonable. An empty stomach should absorb nutrients more quickly, right? But in reality, this is one of the easiest ways to hurt yourself. Garlic is naturally pungent and strong, packed with sulfur compounds. When you eat it on an empty stomach, your stomach lining, which is already sensitive, gets hit directly. The result is often burning, reflux, or sharp pain. And for those with a history of ulcers or acid reflux, the damage can be even more severe. I remember a patient named James, 66, who started every morning with a raw clove of garlic and a glass of water. He'd heard it was the best way to cleanse the blood and liver. Within weeks, he came back to me complaining of constant stomach pain, even losing sleep from acid reflux. I explained, "Our bodies are not machines that need to be flushed out. What they need is gentle, proper care. And garlic, if used incorrectly, can turn into a double-edged sword. Science backs this up. Studies show that garlic compounds can strongly irritate an empty stomach lining. Some even suggest that regularly eating garlic on an empty stomach may increase the risk of chronic gastritis. So, what's the wise way to use garlic? Very simple. Eat it along with other foods: a slice of bread, some vegetables, or in a warm bowl of soup. When there's food in your stomach, it acts like a cushion, protecting your gut while still allowing garlic to do its job without causing irritation. I often tell my patients, treat your stomach like an old friend. Don't shock it with harsh surprises. Be gentle. Be patient. And it's true, when they make this small change, their digestion improves, and their energy feels stronger. Have you ever eaten garlic on an empty stomach and felt that burning discomfort? If so, try changing that habit. You may be surprised at how much better your body responds. My dear friend. There's another mistake I often see, one that can be truly dangerous if you're taking medications for chronic conditions. Mixing garlic with certain drugs or foods can cause harmful interactions. Garlic is a very powerful natural medicine, but because it's powerful, it isn't always safe when combined with other treatments. For example, if you're on blood thinners like warfarin or aspirin, eating too much garlic can increase your risk of bleeding, bruising, or even internal hemorrhage. I once had a patient, Martha, age 70, who was taking blood thinners for her heart. She thought a few extra cloves of garlic each day would keep her blood vessels healthy. But soon she developed frequent nosebleeds and unexplained bruises after the slightest bump. And it's not just blood thinners. Medications for blood pressure, diabetes, and cholesterol can all be affected by garlic. I remember a gentleman named Harold, 65 years old, who was on diabetes medication. He added large amounts of garlic to his meals, hoping it would balance his blood sugar naturally. The result? His blood sugar dropped to low, leaving him dizzy and nearly fainting one afternoon at the grocery store. It doesn't stop there. Some foods can also react badly with garlic. Drinking alcohol while eating large amounts of garlic puts extra stress on your liver. Combining garlic with very spicy foods can make your stomach even more irritated. The point I want to emphasize is this: garlic is good, but not good in every situation. It's like a strong friend. If you know how to connect with that strength, it will support you. But if you don't understand it, that same strength can harm you. So what's the solution? Simple. If you're on regular medication, talk with your doctor before making garlic a daily supplement, especially in large amounts or in concentrated forms like garlic pills or extracts. But if you're only adding a clove or two in your meals, most of the time, that's perfectly safe. I always remind my patients, nothing is more precious than balance. Even the best food needs to be used in the right way, at the right time. Now, let me share with you the mistake I see most often, and the one that troubles me the most. Many people believe that eating garlic alone is enough, that it can replace their medications and medical treatments. I understand this mindset. We all want to find a natural remedy that's inexpensive, safe, and free of side effects. And garlic, used for thousands of years as medicine, easily becomes the perfect candidate in that belief. But that very belief can lead to real danger. I remember vividly a patient named Daniel, age 71. He had high blood pressure for years and was prescribed regular medication. But after a friend told him, just eat garlic every day, it lowers blood pressure better than drugs, he stopped taking his medicine and relied only on garlic. For a short time, his blood pressure seemed stable. But months later, he was rushed to the hospital with severe chest pain, a heart attack that nearly took his life. Lying in the hospital bed, he held my hand and whispered, "I wish I hadn't stopped my medicine. Garlic does have real benefits. Science has proven that. It reduces inflammation, supports blood vessels, balances cholesterol, and can help regulate blood pressure. But remember this, garlic is support, not a substitute. It's like a companion on your journey to health, a friend who makes the road easier, but not the shoes you need to walk the distance. Modern medicine and natural remedies are not enemies. They should walk side by side. I often tell my patients, medications are the foundation. Herbs like garlic are the bricks that make the house stronger. Without the foundation, a few bricks alone will never hold up a house. So the next time someone tells you, don't take your medicine, just eat garlic, pause and ask yourself, does this advice come from a true healthcare professional who understands my body, or just a rumor without real evidence? I've seen too many people regret trusting folk remedies over sound medical guidance, and I don't want that to happen to you. So let garlic be a part of your diet, a valuable ally for your body. But never treat it like a miracle cure that replaces medicine. True health, especially in your 50s, 60s, or 70s, requires wisdom, clarity, and balance. And now, my friend, let's take a step back and reflect on everything we've explored together about garlic. We've talked about not rushing it after chopping, giving time for allicin to form, about the mistake of swallowing whole cloves, missing its true essence, about eating too much at once, turning benefit into burden, about cooking it at high heat, destroying its very soul, about eating it on an empty stomach, risking your gut's health, about combining it with the wrong medications or foods, leading to harmful reactions, and finally, the most serious mistake, treating garlic like a miracle drug, when in truth, it should only ever be your companion on the path to health. You see, Each mistake may seem small, but the consequences are not small at all. And they all come from one root cause: our impatience, our tendency to believe in absolutes, while forgetting that the human body thrives on balance and patience. I want you to imagine this. Garlic is like an old friend. If we treat that friend with respect, they give us strength, protection, even peace. But if we push too hard, or expect too much, we can easily turn that friend into a burden. In more than 30 years of working with patients over the age of 50, I've learned one simple truth: health never comes from a single secret, not from one pill, and not even from one clove of garlic. True health comes from harmony, from the way we eat, the way we live, the way we think, and from the help of modern medicine. And once you realize that, you'll stop chasing after miracle cures, because life itself, lived in balance, is already the miracle. So next time you hold a clove of garlic in your hand, remember, it's more than a seasoning. It's a gentle reminder that health is built through small details, through patience, through listening to your own body. And I want to leave you with a question. If just one clove of garlic can teach us so many lessons, how many other lessons in life have we missed simply because we were rushing? My friend, before we close today's conversation about garlic, I want to leave you with a small invitation. If you found these thoughts helpful, think of it as a talk between friends learning together how to care for our health with wisdom and kindness. You might even share this video with a spouse, a sibling, or an old friend. Who knows? A single reminder could spare them the struggles I've seen in so many patients. And if you'd like to keep walking this road with me as a doctor who has lived through more than 60 springs, cared for thousands of patients, and still has many stories to tell, then click subscribe. Not for the numbers, but so that every time I sit down to share, you can sit too. Pour yourself a cup of tea, and listen, as if we were two old friends talking across the table. Health, at the end of the day, doesn't come from grand changes. It comes from the small things, repeated, day after day. Like knowing how to use one simple clove of garlic, the kind of detail that may seem tiny, yet has the power to change the quality of your life. So I invite you to stay with me on this journey. We won't just talk about garlic, but about foods, habits, and reflections that have helped me and many of my patients live not just longer, but with more peace and vitality in the second half of life. And remember this: your 50s, 60s, even your 70s are not the end of the story. They are a new movement in the song of life. And sometimes, just one small change like the way you eat a clove of garlic can make that song more harmonious, more vibrant, and full of life.